Hello! Welcome to another episode of Yarn Talk with Princess Tigerbutton. If you're new here, my name is Jaime. I am the creator behind Princess Tigerbutton. I sell crochet plushies primarily, but a few other things here and there. Primarily, mostly in in-person markets and online. And I have this YouTube channel to offer updates on what I've been doing and show you a little bit of what I'm making and whatever else kind of comes up in the process. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm glad to have you with us again. It is Monday morning, the 27th. I had meant to record over the weekend and things just kind of got away from me. I am in the car once again today. I am actually sitting in the parking lot. My oldest is doing orientation for a new job. So I figured it's far enough away that it wasn't worth me going home and then coming to pick him up, because he's only going to be here a couple hours. So I figured it was a perfect time to sit here, brought my yarn, and I do a little recording while I wait. So let's see. The last video I did was last week, and that was before Foodees Fest. Yes. So that was 2 weeks ago then. And I know I had a lot of reservations about what Foodees Fest was going to be. It was their first time being up here. It was my first time doing anything with them. And I had heard all I could find online was a lot of negative impressions, a lot of complaints. I only found one video on YouTube that pertained, just get a little piece of yarn here I can use as a stitch marker. I brought some yellow yarn with me to replenish my rubber ducks. So that's what I'm working on while we talk. I found one lady that had a YouTube from a Foodees Fest last year in Memphis. And so obviously that's a whole other vibe than New England for one. And but she didn't have a great time. They had it laid out in a neighborhood, so they actually had like tents up on the street. And so I think that the layout probably didn't help her at all. And they had all the food trucks together on one side and all the crafters together on the other. So people were only going for the food and not actually coming down to shop. And that is kind of a bummer. And that's kind of what I was afraid of, is that that's how they were going to lay things out. Was that we would be kind of out in left field compared to the foods. I mean, they are called Foodees. So that is obviously the primary. This crochet hook is driving me nuts. It is just a cheapish one I bought at, I don't know, Walmart or something. And I like the shape of the ergonomic part, but it is completely unglued from the metal hook. So it keeps slipping in and out while I'm trying to stitch. And I know I do tend to hook size down compared to most people's amigurumi, so that probably isn't helping. But I'm going to have to see if I can glue this back into the handle, or I'm going to have to just get something else in this size and replace it. That's a possibility too. But anyway, what I was going to say was, so her experience was pretty lackluster. And so I was quite nervous. And that's why I had decided to visit the Wrentham Foodees Fest and see what was going on there. And I was lucky enough to be able to talk to a crochet vendor, and she was doing really well. She was very pleased. She said that some people were kind of upset and that they had left early. They weren't making any money. And from what it sounds like, Wrentham had a number of snafus and things. And so if any negative press coming out of that would have resulted from that. I didn't hear about it until after the fact. One of the owners of Foodees, they gave us a Facebook group for the vendors that I've been part of since I signed up. So I've been able to see kind of as they put information out for each show and anything that they want to address in between. And one of the owners had put out a video right before the start of Auburn Foodees, basically addressing some issues from Wrentham. So that tells me that whatever happened there must have been pretty significant. But I guess they had a food vendor who didn't get her permits in time, and she wasn't allowed to sell because she didn't have the right food permits. And she went and tried to claim racism and that they were discriminating against her. And as it turns out, one of my booth neighbors at Auburn was her booth neighbor at Rentham, and they said that there was no racism. There was no nothing. It was just she had a very questionable setup. They weren't even sure what kind of food she was trying to sell, but she didn't have the proper food permits from the Board of Health, and that is a big no-no. Like, you can't eat at everyone's house. And so, as a business owner, it is your responsibility. And they gave us months, oodles of time to get all of the proper permits. There was tons of reminders went out there. Make sure you have insurance. In fact, I had to have proof of insurance when I signed up. So that was already taken care of right off the jump. But I'm not a food vendor, so I didn't have to worry about that other stuff. But they reminded us, like, almost every other week, like, you're going to need your permits. You're going to need this. So if you can't be bothered as a business owner to get the proper permits, then no, you don't deserve to be selling. But that doesn't make it discrimination either. They have, the organizers have a responsibility to make sure everybody has the right stuff, because if the Board of Health comes walking in, in fact, they tell you have to have that stuff posted. You have to have it available. They could come in and ask you for that paper at any time. And it's the same thing with me with like tax IDs and stuff like that. I've never had anyone ask for it. We're supposed to have them posted, but I have them at least readily available both in paper and on my phone. So if somebody questioned me about it, I have it. That is just part of being a business owner and being prepared, is making sure you have the right paperwork. It's as important as making sure you pay your sales tax and file your taxes and do whatever you got to do. So, like, I wouldn't consider that a fault on Foodees if that was a problem. And they also said that there was some issues with the fire department and there was some miscommunications with generators, which is something else I don't have to worry about because I don't use a generator. Although the more wild ideas I get from my booth and needing lighting and stuff like that, next thing you know, I'm going to end up with a generator just to be able to run enough electricity. I'm not going to do that. That is expensive and loud. And Mark and I are already deaf, so we don't need anything that's going to make a whole bunch of extra noise in our booth. But yeah, so none of that are things that I would have pinned on the organizers. But I do have some footage, and I am going to put out a video, and I'm going to try to get that one out first. I know I haven't put out like any of my market videos since the first one, but I'm going to get this one out quick and get that edited today or tomorrow morning, so we can get that out. I got some footage of my setup. I was there. I stayed over Mark's house Wednesday night, already loaded up with the tables, the tent, and all the fixtures. And so I went over there at like 6:30 in the morning. Crafters weren't supposed to line up till 8, but I got in line. I paid my $50 deposit, and they actually let me in to set up. I'd say we're almost around 7:30, so I did get a little extra time. I was the first craft vendor there. And so, but they were really nice to work with. They even put up my tent for me while I was parking, after I unloaded my car and I was parking it. And I know part of that was benefiting them too, so they could line up all of the other crafter tents with my tent. And I got a great spot right in the front. So I can't complain about that. But they didn't have to help me with the tent. They didn't have to do that. And they were very nice. Everything went really smoothly. They offered us water throughout the weekend because it was really hot. They were super easy to communicate with, answered all our questions. And, even with losing like an hour and a half, couple hours because of the rain, everything went really well. And the real result is this was my best weekend ever. I mean, it was our first 3-day event, so I don't have anything to compare that to in terms of money wise. But, I guess the closest comparison would have been Anime Con, which was 2 full days. And we cleared 1,700 there. Well, we cleared 2,500 at Foodees. And that was wild. We were busy pretty much all weekend. There was only like a couple of lulls where we went almost an hour with no sales. But we had plenty of people looking. We were in a great location. I think I did a good job of putting out the things that attract people in the right spots. So I'm pleased with that. And that's the kind of setup I want to go with going forward. And we're going to keep building on that. But Sunday, after the rain, we only lost like 2.5 hours on Saturday night. So who knows how much money we could have made if we had been able to stay open that Saturday night. That might have been a $3,000 weekend. Who knows? But we still did very well. And Sunday actually broke our, I have itchy toes. Sunday actually broke our 1-day total. And we'd sold over $1,100. And we had just broken 1,000 at Comic-Con. AnimeCon. So that was really impressive. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about people's response to us. Everything was really well received. Like I said, we had a great time. The food was phenomenal. I will absolutely do Foodees again. And if I had been better prepared, I think, if I had been able to build up a lot of inventory that I could do 2 of them, I would consider, if they come back and they do these events again, maybe I'll do Rentham and Auburn. That's a lot of work, 2 weekends back to back, but with the potential of that much money raised. And I know a lot of vendors did all 3. They did Rentham, they did Auburn, and they did Portland, Maine, which was this past weekend. And from what I understand, Portland went very, very well as well. And they didn't get rained out. So something to consider. But I know the real problem is that I'm cleaned out of like everything. I was crocheting like a madwoman at Foodees because trying to put stuff out, especially like my dinosaurs also hadn't moved in a long time, and now all of a sudden they were all selling out. I had to make more dinosaurs that all sold. So that puts me back on the in the thought process, if these bigger events are going to be that much more lucrative for us, I need to build in more time to build up inventory, which has been a constant problem. I always feel like, I'm scrambling to put together a lot of inventory, and it's been a tough balance between making enough money at an event to cover my bills, because as I've said before, I do a little bit of door dashing, not quite full time, but I've been doing some door dashing in between events just to cover what my needs. So like if I have a bill coming up and I didn't have the funds for it, I could just dash a day or so and make the money to pay that bill. But it's always left me very hand to mouth right now. And so, like even with this money, and the thing is I could say, yeah, I made $2,500, but that's not $2,500 paying my bills. Like obviously Square's going to take fees out of that. Some of that's going to have to go to sales tax, a couple $100 of that. Because of the fact I'm out of everything, I spent most of this week making yarn purchases. I had placed an order with Hirschner's. I placed an order with Yarn Inspirations. It'll be coming later today. I went to Michael's and I picked up a bunch of stuff that I could get easily locally. I bought to buy more Safety Eyes. I probably have to put in another order from Safety Eyes. I bought 3 more trays to make more sushi cats. So I had to outlay money. And there's a couple of things that we're still looking to purchase for our setup. Like we learned the hard way, for some reason we have 3 tent walls and not 4. So we had to use extra linens, table linens that we weren't using in the display to cover the 4th wall. So I want to look at a sturdier set of tent walls that see if Crown makes any. For whatever, the tent walls we had bought on Amazon. I thought I was buying a tent. Instead, I got 3 walls. So they went with my cheap Walmart tent, but now that we have the Crown tent, I wonder if I can get Crown sidewalls that'll work better and be a little bit more sturdy. So that's something we want to consider. And we want to consider, if we're going to do nighttime shows, that we need a little bit better lighting. Like, in fact, we're going to be doing a night market in Worcester, and that's going to mean some extra lighting. We have the little tiny fairy lights. I want to get some better ones. I can probably get the ones I got are like actual like AA battery operated, but I might be able to get some LED ones that are a little bigger, a little brighter, something to put around the inside of the booth. So that's something we definitely want to upgrade, or maybe getting a couple of like rechargeable like book lamps or like clamp light type things to help. But so that's an expense. Plus I have the expense of like paying for the Shopify and stuff like that. So I can't use all of that money on my own bills. But anyway, this is a long-winded way to say that like I'm caught sometimes between spacing out my events a lot, and so I have enough time to build up inventory, but I also need to spend that time. If the more I space out, the more I need to spend dashing to make up the money that I'm not making from having more events, if that makes sense. So like, I'm not bothered doing more events more close together, but the problem is not having the inventory built up ahead of time to support that. And now I also have to think about the fact that we have a 4-day festival in October coming, Autumn Fest in Woonsocket, and that is a very well-established fair. So, and it's 4 days over Columbus Day weekend. So that's going to be a lot of traffic, and I'm going to need a lot of inventory for that, because those are going to be long, long days. And that goes into the nighttime too. I think they close at 10 on the longer days. So going to definitely need our lighting set up for that. And then we have Rhode Island Comic Con a couple weeks, 3 weeks later in the beginning of November. And that's something else that's going to be very high traffic. Now we're not going to have a 10 by 10 for that. We're going to have 10 by 6, I think. So I think what we were going to do is, I believe they give us a 6-foot table, and we're just going to bring that table back and bring our grid walls, I think. So we don't have to build super tall with the cubbies like we had been doing. I feel like we learned that lesson at AnimeCon. We built too tall and people weren't seeing what was up top. So I figured with the grid walls, we can put all our big showstoppers on the grid walls so that they're a little bit more closer to eye level. And we can still use our cubbies on the 6-foot table and have our little shopping window. We're going to need it. But we can manage that a little bit better. And I think, I don't know, I might not have as wide a variety for Comic-Con just for that reason, because we're going to be kind of cramped in there. But I'll just bring depth. Like, I'll bring a lot of fewer items across the board. But one of the upsides to having to replenish so much is this is a good time for me to think about the fact that we're heading into the end of summer. I'm sure some of you are really sad about that, but I hate summer. So I'm ready for fall already. Summerween is very much my vibe, because I know that means Halloween is coming. But that being said, I'm thinking about, should I make things for Halloween? Should I start thinking about Christmas? And when I think about the fact that I sell primarily plushies, are people really going to want a lot of Christmas plushies? My mom suggested that people might want some for decor. But so I can get that done kind of early so people have time to decorate. But I was thinking about that. I have some little snowmen, and I sold a few last year, but I was kind of late in the season when I brought them out. But I was like, what else do I want to make that would be, I make a couple little Santas maybe, or some gingerbread people. I don't think I'm going to make a ton of Christmas specific plushies, just because I don't think that that's going to be a big seller. I would like to try to get a couple of more tree skirts done, because that did seem to work well for us last year. And of course, ornaments. I can put the tree out again with some ornaments, and that seems to do well. So those are things that are on the back burner that I want to start kind of making, even if it is just like a palette cleanser between other things that I'm working on for events. But yes, Halloween's going to be here before we know it. And then I just brain farted on the ducky pattern. It's fine. So Halloween's going to be here soon. And you know what? Halloween, obviously, I'm a big Halloween fan. Halloween has an all year round appeal to a lot of people, as spooky things do. I've had some ghosts. I have some white and pink ghosts, and they really haven't sold at all since last fall. So it's I say that, it has a year round appeal, but nobody's appealing. But it is going to pick up. So it's now I'm thinking about, okay, now that I've got room in my inventory, do I want to start introducing more Halloween things? I do the teal pumpkins. I always had the worsted weight pumpkins. I don't know if plushy pumpkins are going to do as well. Or maybe I got to do a Jellycat style pumpkin with legs or something. I could, I guess. I'm probably going to do a pumpkin hoodie bear, at least one or two. I think I could definitely do that. Just do an orange hood with a little stem on top, and I'm not sure how I could do the pumpkin lines, or maybe I'll just have to applique jack-o'-lantern on the hoodie part. That might be cute. I'll have to try and remember that. Try that out. Because I did sell 4 hoodie bears at Foodees. I sold both of my frog bears. I sold the dino bear and the chicken bear. So those definitely have to be replenished. But I was thinking about other things that I could make that would be more seasonal. So maybe a cat. A black cat might be cute too. Because I could just put cat ears on the existing hood pattern, just like I do on the loaf cats, where they could just stick up a little bit. I think that would work. I could always put a tail in the back maybe. So we have options there. You have options. But so I've been kind of trying to brainstorm what else could I bring in that would be different, because that's it too. We're going to be back at the Emerald Square Mall next month on the 8th and 9th. That's my next show in just under 2 weeks. So I need to replenish for that. And so obviously right now I've been working on the perennial favorites. I've been rebuilding my cat stash. I'm replenishing my yellow ducks because they sold very well. Plain yellow ducks have a lot of appeal. Jeep ducking is definitely still alive and well. So there's a lot of that going on, and a lot of little kids, young kids like the ducks too. So that's a nice gift for smalls. But I've made them in other colors, and they don't seem to sell as well as the classic yellow. So I always make sure I have tons of classic yellow. I'd put these and the pride ducks out front of my booth at Foodees with the cats, and they did attract a lot of people, and a lot of people really like the pride ducks too. So keeping a stock of that is always going to be kind of priority too, even outside of Pride Month, because we're queer all year. So I think people like that and might like that for gifting as well. So something to think about. So that's what I've been working on so far this week, has been just replenishing the favorites. But it was a good time for me and Mark to sit down and evaluate, okay, what sold, because a lot of things that sold at Foodees are things that didn't move for a long time. So I'm reluctant to build up inventory of those things again, knowing I'm going to be sitting on it. Like my geese. I love those little silly geese with the dangly legs. I had so much fun making them, but they sold so slowly. And I did sell through what I had, I have one goose left, one white goose. But, I don't know, I wouldn't mind making more of them, but at the same time, it's like, do I prioritize that? Do I expend that energy for something that might not sell so well? So I might make one of each for now, like one goose, one Canada goose, a mallard, the flamingos. I might make a couple of the flamingos and the mallards just because those do sell well. Those were the first ones to go out. So, and the upside is I don't have to wing all this, and I don't have to just sit here and scratch my head and think about what sells well, because I have all of this in Square. So I'm really proud that Jaime was very smart in putting all the inventory into Square, so I can go back and see overall and per event what I sold and how much of it, so I know what numbers wise what I need to replenish. So it's been very handy, and it's been helpful in helping me be a little bit more ruthless in terms of what makes the cut, in terms of what's going to stay in my inventory and what's not. Because you have to be able to bring out new stuff. Like I said, we're going back to Emerald Square Mall, which is a favorite for us. We haven't been there since May. So, it's an opportunity to see, some people might be excited to see us again, and we might get a lot of new eyes on our stuff. So I want to be able to bring some of our favorites, but also bring some new items for our returning customers, because that is a place definitely where people remembered us and were excited to see us there month after month. Right now, I'm not sure if we're going to be doing that in September. I haven't booked for that yet. I'm trying to see what's out there for festivals. I was trying to find something for the end of August, but that may be tougher to do. And the last weekend, the 29th and 30th, if I could get something for that, Mark is off that weekend, which would be ideal, because then at least I have the second two hands. Because if I'm going to schedule things and try to schedule more in the fall, I have to be cognizant of the fact that, he may not be able to get that time off of work. And I learned the hard way just how much longer it takes me, especially with a bad shoulder, trying to set up a 10x10 tent by myself and lug things around. So I have to be mindful of my setup and how much time some of these vendor organizers are going to give us. Some of these places are like, okay, you have an hour to set up, and that's great for an indoor setup. I can probably get that done. But for a big 10x10 where I've got to put up a tent and tables and cubbies and grid walls and then put product all over it, I need closer to 2 hours. So I have to be mindful of those things when I don't have extra hands. And now that Tristan's going to be working at the same place that Mark works, now I don't have him to borrow when Mark's not around either. So it's either going to be the two of us, or I'm going to be flying solo. So I've been having to be kind of mindful about what I commit to. But I am trying to load up the fall just because it is, holiday season, and I figure that's a good time. If we're going to get ahead money-wise, that's the time to be doing it. And then we'll just be a little bit more choosy going into 2027 in terms of which events I apply for. I don't think I'm going to do anything in the first part of the year. I think I know I've said that before. Like that Acorn Noir one, I was so hyped for that. I thought it was going to be a lot of fun, and it turned out to be like the jankiest little small thing, and I was really disappointed. I liked the vibe, and everybody was really nice and cool, but I think a lot of the other vendors were feeling the same as me. They felt like they were hyped up for something that was not meeting expectations, and it's a shame. And even though we did well at the mall in February, I might do that again, depending on what dates they book for the 2027. If it's going to be Valentine's Day weekend again, I might do it just because that did. You know what? I don't know. That weekend we sold more on the Sunday than we did on the Saturday, and you think it would have been the other way around, but there was a lot of people there, but I think they were there for the stores trying to buy their Valentine's Day presents, and people were getting ready for plans and going out, so that might not be all actually that great of a marketing strategy for us. So that's something to think about. I just had a brain fart. What am I doing here? Okay, sorry. It happens sometimes. Most of these patterns, I've made so many of them that I can kind of have them memorized, and then ever so often, like, I don't know, a page falls out of my brain and something doesn't get memorized anymore. I guess I can only hold so many patterns in there, but you can see I'm halfway through the body of a duck. So I was going to say, so my goal was to, be a little bit more choosy for next year, and I think not doing anything in January is going to give me more time to straight build inventory after Christmas at that point, and just kind of do all of the administrative stuff. So that is my plan there. I don't know if I'm going to get anything else in the end of August in terms of shows. It'd be nice to get something either the last weekend in August or maybe a smaller show in the first week of September. September 12th and 13th would be the card show next, and that's easy enough for us to sign up for if I don't get into something else, but I'm still looking for something fun, but we'll figure it out. I'd rather err on the side of not doing something than overbook, though, but we'll see. I guess it'll depend on how crazy Emerald Square Mall is, but so there's that. Wow, I really am starting to brain fart on this pattern. But all right, so I'm going to break for that. And so I will show you some of what I've been making. At first I was like, oh, do I really want to do a video? Because I don't have a lot of exciting things. I don't have a lot of new makes or anything. I have a lot of cats. I've been trying to get to a point where I've got two of each breed. So, like, for example, so I've got gray yarn, so I made I had no more gray cats, so I've made 2 big gray cats. And I've made 2 small gray cats. Trying to do them a little different. Like, I don't know if it would actually be better or faster if I cranked them all out identical. I had to buy more safety eyes. The company that I was using on Amazon, I went back and looked through my orders, and I've been ordering the same listing every time, but they changed a little something about these eyes. They made them slightly bigger, and the color part is a little skinnier. I don't know. Something about it I don't like, and the backings are really strong, but they're bigger on the back, so I have to be mindful in smaller pieces, like how much that sticks out. Like, I'm not going to use these on the hoodie bear hoods, because in the hoodie bear hoods that have eyes on them, like the chicken and the duck and the dino, actually they all do. So, but you can see the back of those safety eyes from inside the hood. There's no real way to hide that. So I don't want something with a giant backing that's going to get in the way of the hood coming up and down. But in these guys where everything's concealed, it's fine. But I like doing them slightly different because a lot of people are always like, oh my God, this looks like my cat. And not everybody's cat looks the same. So if I make 2 the same, I want to use different color eyes. So I have some choices. I have some options. But some certain colors go with certain things. Like, I tend to reserve my blue eye discs from the variegated packs for like the white cats and for Siamese cats, because they almost always have blue eyes. But I made one and this one has a slightly like a purpley periwinkle eye. I gave them pink noses just to be a little different this time. So I got 2 white cats. And I got, can't reach, 2 small white cats. And I did the same thing. I got like purpley eyes, and this one actually has pink eyes to do something a little different. I don't know if I can get them in like single color packs. I'm going to have to do some research because I would absolutely do that if I could buy them in single colors so that I could make use of some of the more popular ones. But I buy them in a pack that's assorted. So I don't want to end up with some colors that don't get used. So some of them are definitely a little bit more on the unrealistic side. But this color, again, sells out so fast. And I don't know if people think that they're like the hairless cats, because it is kind of like that, like a flesh pink tone almost. This is pink quartz in the Bernat Mystical, but I sell so many of these. And so sometimes I use brownish sparkle eyes. I use the kind of the hot pink eyes. This one's got another one of the purples. And again, I give them little different faces. Sometimes they have eyebrows. Sometimes they're kind of like giving you a little sad pout, like, please take me home. And I made little small pink cats too. I might actually double up and make more, like three of each, just because those do sell so often. What else did I make later? I already had a toasted birch, so I made a second toasted birch. Like I said, I'm building up everybody up to 2 of each, and I didn't have any small toasted birches, so now I have 2 of them that are toasted birch. And I made replenished a couple of small cats. I got another coal black kitty, which I believe was one of the few small cats I had left that didn't sell at Foodees. And I had 1 black cat left, so I made another black cat. Like the black cats tend to get, this one has like coppery colored eyes. I use like the light green, the bright green, copper, and like gold for black cats, and for the tuxedos. And this one's like a little black cat, and you see he's got green eyes. Oh my God, he doesn't have a face. I can fix that. I can embroider that on after. I usually do it because you start here in the middle of the face. So I do that, and I do the increases, and then you do the ears, and then the next row goes behind the back loops behind the ears, and then you do the feet. And so usually the row after the feet, I stop, and that's when I put the eyes in. I embroider the whole face, and then I continue down the body and close it off, and then do and so on a tail. So I can embroider after the fact and put the face on. That's an easy fix. One time I made one and forgot to put the eyes in. That is a lot harder to fix. Maybe not some of these, like the black yarn here is a little not great. This is obviously Bernat blanket and coal, and it's not as soft feeling as some of the other ones, and it tends to, I feel like it's almost like thicker. Like it feels slightly thicker than some of the other ones. So like if I forget the eyes, it's either undo, especially if I've already woven in the ends and everything. So it's like trying to pull that out is a nightmare. I did that once and immediately regretted it. So what we did is we'll try to like work the backing. And this is again where the smaller backings are better and the big backings are less ideal. And I hope that this isn't like a permanent change for this company. We put the backings in through the stitches and then put the eye in and then just try to like pinch it together. And I've had some success doing that in a pinch. But with these new giant backings, I don't have any with me to show you, but that's not going to be feasible. And then, let's see, is that it? I think that was it. And then I made one coal black kitty. This is the Bernat Mystical. He's got fuzz. Bernat Mystical in coal. And people seem to like this as well. So, and I just got another skein of this so because I need to make another big one. And I'm only about halfway through my my list of cats to make. So I really got to get cranking on that. But every so often, especially making the same thing over and over again, even if it is in different colors and variants, I do need a little palette cleanser. And I couldn't resist to jump on the internet trend, and I made a Jimothy. Jimothy the Raccoon. He's a little silly, and I don't know if you're not familiar with Jimothy. He's kind of taken the internet by storm. This is a little raccoon with a spinal deformity that lives in Seattle, or like in a suburb neighborhood. And so he's got kind of like a little spinal deformity and a little stubby tail, and he's just sort of taken the internet by storm. So a lot of people have been making little Jimothy patterns, and this pattern was by Repeat Crafter Me. It originally called for worsted weight. I've done her patterns before. She doesn't do a ton of amigurumi kind of thing. She's done a handful. It's not her primary wheelhouse. But she typically works in worsted weight, and she did make this Jimothy pattern. And I've used her patterns before, so I knew I could trust that it would be well written, and it was. It was pretty well written with good explanations. And I thought, oh, I'll make a decent size if I do it in blanket yarn with a bigger hook, instead of doing it with a 4.5, or no, she used a 5mm hook with Red Heart. But there are definitely, if I did another one, there are definitely things I would change. So like this is her pattern as written. And she has you make the body by itself. And she has you make the 4 legs and a tail and the 2 ears and the snout and this eye patch all as separate pieces. So as you put a nose on the, and I didn't have any bigger noses, so I would have to get a bigger nose or be prepared to like embroider a nose. And that might be what I do if I make another one. But instead of having the body and then having a stuffed snout sewn to it, she actually crocheted this to it. I actually thought sewing it would be better, but I wouldn't do a separate eye patch. I would just do color changes while I'm making the snout, and then instead of having to sew that onto a body that I made separate, I think I would do what I do for the possums, because this is how I do the possums. They have a little sticky out snout like this too. I make the snout, put in the eyes, do the ears, and you go right into the body color. And so it's all one piece. And in fact, on the possums, I don't even have a separate tail. I go literally snout to tail without having anything sewn. No, there's nothing sewn on those at all. So, but that has like bobble stitch paws. So I don't have to do paws. I couldn't think of how I would change the legs from what she has us do, because she just has you pinch it across and just sew it to the body. There's no way. I thought about like, could I turn these so that they flip-flop this way and then I could crochet them in, maybe, but I don't know if it would. But this actually stands on its own without help. So I don't know if I did the legs differently, would it not stand? But I would definitely do the body in one fell swoop, and you could probably make the ears and then crochet those in as you go instead of sewing them on. I think that's what I would do if I do it again. I would just, when I get to that row, I would just add them in and just crochet through both pieces and do the same thing. But yeah, otherwise I would definitely do stem, and I would probably wouldn't even, I mean, she has you do the same thing where you pinch it off and just sew the tail on. I could do that and then you get the little flippy floppy effect. But I would just, yeah, I think maybe that's what I would have to do. I suppose I could just crochet it as an extension of the body, but then I feel like even if I left this like unstuffed, I don't think you would get the same level of flippy floppy. And he does need to have a tail that moves a little bit. And it is a little stubby raccoon tail. And that too, like, you start the body on this end and it's more flattened and round, and then you're going to put the snout on. I can see why she did that. But going to the back here was definitely more tapered. And if in the pictures I see from it, it was almost like he has no butt. So I need I almost want to make the body more like the loaf cats, and so that it ends more abruptly. And then I could sew the tail in the end. So if I do a second one, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have time, and if I have another skein of gray to do that, because I used up a lot of it. Actually, no, I have one more skein of gray coming, so I could make another Jimothy. And if I do that, how much have I changed the pattern to where it's my own pattern? And should I write it down? Like, I feel like this is going to be a flash in the pan thing, and it's probably not going to need a permanent Jimothy pattern. So I don't know if I would be worth trying to sell it, especially where so many people are giving theirs away for free. But I don't know. Like, I'd like to find some way to use that to attract some attention, I guess. I'll be putting some pictures on social media of this guy today. And obviously crediting Repeat Crafter Me. Obviously, since this is her pattern. But I guess that begs the question, like, because I mean, I'm going to be fundamentally changing the construction and probably the stitch counts. Like, the the math on the how many stitches in each row and where the increases are was definitely pretty non-standard to what most amigurumi patterns I'm used to use. Most patterns I'm used to usually start with either 6 stitches or 8 stitches and build from there. And this was a different number of stitches. And I don't know if that was what led to that. I don't know if that's, I haven't done enough for patterns to know if that's just like a signature repeat crafter me move to use that kind of math. And if so, then I'm happy to change the stitch counts to something more standard that will fit what I'm going for. And in fact, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing anyway. So I will play with that a little bit. I might make a second one with my own modifications. And then if so, then I will write that down. And I'll do a pattern, even if I have to give it away for free, just to kind of get it out there, try my hand. I have never actually written a pattern before, so that would be new for me. So that's pretty exciting. But I do kind of like Jimothy. I haven't decided what I want to price him at. I'm going to try and weigh him. He's going to be hefty. So I definitely think we're going to be looking probably somewhere in like the $60 range. Maybe. He's not as super detailed as some of my ones that are going for $75. So maybe 50. He's more detailed than a hoodie. He's bigger than a hoodie bear. So I think 60 might be the right range for that. But it's tough. I've got the dino, like the dino I showed you in the last one. I put that at 75. That got a lot of looks at Foodees, but no bites. So, and only one person complained about the price and thought it was not worth it. Like other people couldn't afford it, but they didn't say it was an unfair price. So it's like, I felt like that's pretty fair based on my calculation tools in terms of material cost and labor cost. And I probably undershot a little bit on the labor, and I'm okay with that. But I'm okay with saying it only took 2 hours when it probably took me like 5. Because I was probably also dillying around and goofing off and watching YouTube and like not 100% focused on crocheting the entire 2 hours. If I condensed all that down, it probably was like 2 hours. So I have to kind of think about that. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if this is something that somebody would actually buy. I'll see if someone bites at the next show. But we'll go from there. So that's why I'm kind of on the fence about, do I want to make another Jimothy? But at the same time, I am kind of curious to make one with my modifications to see the difference and see if I like it better. So I'll put that on the burner for this week at some point. So that's all I have to show for makes. Like I said, cats first and foremost was my priority. And I know that doesn't leave, that isn't exciting for a pattern roundup to not have a variety of things going. But I suspect the next time I talk to you, which will probably be maybe next Monday then. Monday might be a good time to record, actually. So when I get to that, Monday might be when I talk to you. So I might have some stuff, some more varied stuff to show you rather than just cats and Jimothy. So hopefully I'll have another Jimothy. There's a few other patterns that I really would like to try. Things that have been on my back burner that I keep saying I'm going to make and haven't. So I definitely want to spend a little time on that this week, doing those things. And I don't know, I just got to replenish. I got to replenish a lot of our small stuff. Like I'm always going to need baby whales. That's a perennial favorite. I'm out of frogs. So I'm going to have to pick a day and just be like all frogs all the time and get that done. I actually got I got a new to me color of burnout blanket in from Hirschner's. It's called Fern, and it's a really nice green that's a little brighter. It's not as bright as, I'm trying to think of what it compares to. I don't know, it's a little on the brighter side, and I like it without being like neon green, and it's got a little depth of color to it more so than the blanket brights. Because the blanket brights, I love them, and they're great for really fun, bright things like rainbows and stuff like that, but the colors do tend to be really saturated in that, like, all right, so this is the blanket brights right here. This is blanket brights in school bus yellow. So as you can see, there's no tonalness to it. There's no depth of color. There's no real interest. It's a very thick, it's not very furry compared to like the regular burnout blanket. Where so when you feel this, it's soft, but it's doesn't have a lot of fur to it. It's not a lot of nap to the fiber. I guess maybe that's what you might call it. Whereas some of the Bernat blankets that are softer have a lot more softness when you feel them. And they have almost, when you look at the yarn itself, you can see that's a really thick core, but it's not very furry, if that makes sense. I don't have a piece of anything that would be, let me see if I have anything in my bag here. That would be a good comparison. Okay, yeah, I do actually. All right, so this is Bernat Baby Blanket in a lavender. All right, so this is not that different from the Blanket Brights, but it has, I don't know, it is softer feel, but it does seem a little bit furrier and fuzzier than that. I mean, of course, now that I hold them up in front of the camera, they look the same. You're probably thinking, Jamie, what are you smoking? But it's hard for me to explain what I mean. And I don't have a better example with me, unfortunately. So, but that's led me to something I think I mentioned last week about the fact that these brights could go away at any time. I know Yarnspirations has had plenty of inventory issues. I know people are waiting with bated breath. There was an issue with the Lily Sugar and Cream and them getting rid of a lot. So I know that Bernat could probably at any time also suffer a purge. And some of my favorites could go away. So I've been thinking about, like, what am I going to source for backups? And I've started buying some of the Premier Chenille Basics Brights. I don't have any with me in the car right now. Excuse me. But I found it to be a little furrier than this and very soft. So I was pleased with that. And the colors that I got were really nice. I was definitely looking for a really good fire truck red, because even the Bernat Blanket Brights race car red is kind of dark. Like it totally works with the other colors. Like I used it in my rainbow ducks, but the Chenille Basics Brights Poppy is like that much brighter. I'm going to make a rainbow duck this week, and I'll put that in the next video. And I'll do a side-by-side so you can see how much brighter it's going to be, because I think that's going to be one of the changes I make right off the bat, is going to be using that red instead. And I think that's going to be a good bright holly red, Christmas red type thing for any sort of, holiday Christmas makes. So I have that. And I'm just trying to branch out and try other yarns too. Like on the one hand, like I have to be mindful when I order things that, if I need something in the short term, especially where I'm kind of racing to build inventory, I can't order from somewhere that takes 3 weeks to ship. Looking at you, Mary Maxim. Oh my God. But, I was impressed. I'm getting the rest of my Yarnspirations order that I ordered on last Monday. Today, it was supposed to come Friday or Saturday, and it was delayed for whatever reason. But I'm getting it today. It already says it's out for delivery. So that'll be it. So within a week, that's better than Yarnspirations usually takes. Usually it's like 2 weeks before I see that. Sometimes it's a whole week before it even ships from when I place it. So I was pleased that it shipped within a couple of days. So that was better. Maybe that's something that either the sale wasn't that big and I just caught them at a good time, or they've really started to be mindful about getting orders out more quickly. Because I feel like that's always been kind of a pain point with them. Because the sales are great, and they have the biggest selection because they are the manufacturer, so they have a biggest selection of the Bernat blankets and the this and that and everything else that you're trying to buy. So I want to buy from them. But the shipping was always such a nightmare, and there was always something missing from the order. There's always a skein or something that I didn't order that sneaks in there, and I don't know. Get it together, guys. So, but my last order was actually pretty good, so I'm hoping that lightning will strike twice, and this order will be good too. Hirschner's, obviously, that's my go-to if I have to order in bulk, because they're always doing sales. They're always doing free shipping deals. Plus, I pay for the Smart Savings Club. It's $25 a year, and they give you a coupon code for a free shipping at some point in the year of your choice. So you have that, and so I like to use that. It's $25, but the biggest thing for that is priority handling for free. Normally it's a $4.99 service to have them rush the orders, but we get it for free with the Smart Savings Club. So that means that it ships on the same day or like first thing the next day. So that's been really great. And obviously, if I need something immediately, I'm still going to Michael's or Amazon. Sometimes I'm getting better deals on Amazon, but this time around, I had to order a lot from Michael's because there just wasn't, everything on Amazon wasn't going to come in fast, and it wasn't going to come in before my next show in some cases. So I had to go do what I got to do. And that's the other reason why I really would like to eventually build up and be ahead on my inventory so I can just order things from wherever's going to get me the best deal and not have to worry about what's going to come in quickly. But so there we have it. So my next video should be sometime next week. Will still be before my next show, but hopefully I'll have some more interesting things to show off. So I'm gonna call it for now because Tristan's about done with his orientation, so I'll be ready to head out, and I need to get back to making things. So we'll call it here. If you liked and you stayed for the whole thing, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, share it with your friends, leave some comments. All of these things are free, and they really help me grow the channel. I really would like to grow my subscriber count and start reaching more people. I would love to be able to build a community here, and I'm really excited to do that. So we will see you in the next video. Bye!